Everybody, I am going to take a little bit of time today to talk about the exciting world of the assessment of educational ability. And these are survey, battery, diagnostic, readiness, and cognitive ability tests. So why do we do testing? And testing is important because it allows us to know how well a student is learning. So for us to be able to assess class, grades, schools, school systems, or states, we need to have something that's going to direct us and let us know what's going on. We want to know if there's learning problems. We want to know if we need to identify giftedness. We also want to see if a child is ready to move to the next grade. And we also are using these to assess teacher effectiveness. So how are teachers doing in the classroom in helping our kids get ready? Testing is also used for placement of college or graduate school or professional schools. And by testing that, we are determining the mastery of knowledge for professional advanced degrees, so credentialing exams. Take a look at those. Okay, so here is just a little map of tests of educational ability. So we have assessment of ability, which is what someone can do. And then we have achievement testing, which is over here. And that talks about what someone has learned. And under that, we have survey battery, diagnostic, and readiness. And then aptitude. What is somebody capable of learning? What is their cognitive ability? And we have tests like IQ testing, and then we also have neuropsychological assessment. So let's take a look at these different types of tests. What are they? What do they mean? Survey battery tests. We'll start off with that. Survey battery tests measure broad content areas, and often these are used to assess progress in school. There's also diagnostic tests, and these allow you to assess problems of areas of learning, for example, looking for different learning disabilities. Then we have readiness tests, and those are examinations that see, okay, are these kids ready to move ahead in school? So we often have some of these, like when a kid is getting ready to enter first grade or kindergarten, we test them with a readiness test. And then the cognitive abilities test. This is based on what a student has learned in school. And they measure a really broad range of cognitive ability, and they're useful in making predictions about if a student's going to be successful in school or in college. So, survey battery achievement testing. This is increasingly important due to the result of No Child Left Behind. This was an act that was mandated by the federal government, and it basically says that states have to show adequate yearly progress is being made towards students in achieving at state-specific goals that the state has identified. So they are checking to make sure, hey, are you guys doing what you say you're doing? Are we seeing you have a positive change over time? And these are really helpful in a lot of different ways. This can help a student or their parents or teachers identify their different strengths and weaknesses. And it also helps people in the school system, like teachers, principals, and administrators, and also the public, to see how students are doing at all the different levels. And the thing that they use to show this is called adequate yearly progress. So we want to make sure that states are having adequate yearly progress. There's also in your textbook, there's a little thing that shows the relationship between survey battery achievement tests and cognitive ability tests, and that's on page 164 in box 8.2. So this is super fun, surveys and batteries. Okay, so survey and battery test. The National Assessment of Educational Progress in AEP, they do different things. They compare states to see who's doing the best. It is called the National Report Card, and you can go online and find a copy of that. And they use this survey battery testing in 4th grade and in 8th grade to see how they're doing. All right. Types of survey battery tests. These are ones that you're probably familiar with. The Stanford Achievement Test, or SAT-10. This is a standardized assessment that's designed to measure students' academic skills and knowledge in various subjects. And this includes reading, math, language, and science. And it is really commonly used in the United States to assess students' academic progress and also their performance relative to their peers. The test has valuable data that educators and policymakers can use to improve curriculum and to improve their instructional strategies. For example, let's talk about Emily. She is a 5th grade student, and her experience with the Stanford Achievement Test. So her school decides that they're going to administer the SAT-10 to assess the academic progress of the students. So we have Emily, and she takes the SAT-10, and she is being judged on reading, math, language, and science. And the questions that are on this test are matched to go along with the different types of standards that her grade level is supposed to be at. So after she takes the test, we take a look at her scores, and the results are showing, hey, she's doing great in reading and language, but she's really struggling in math. And her science scores, they're kind of moderate. So the teacher goes over these results that she has, and she realizes, hey, Emily is going to need some additional support and practice in math. And so the teacher gets together with some of her colleagues, and they devise a plan to provide Emily with extra math classes, some practice exercises, some personalized tutoring, and some access to some other math-related resources that can help her improve on that. So the school district will use the SAT-10 results to identify trends among the different students. So they notice if a bunch of students are struggling with science, they're like, maybe we should look at our science curriculum and make sure that we are providing interactive services so the students can have different learning opportunities. So in Emily's case, the SAT-10 not only helped pinpoint her academic strengths, but it also showed us her weaknesses. And then it also showed the school, hey, you guys need to change some educational strategies to help these kids meet the goals that you want to meet. All right, another popular test is the Iowa Test of Basic Skills, and it's often known as the Iowa Assessments. And again, it's a standardized test, and it's used to evaluate and check out students' academic skills and their knowledge. So this was created by the University of Iowa's College of Education, and it assesses a wide range of subjects. Again, just like the SAT-10, we're also looking at reading and math, science, language arts, and social studies. And the primary aim of the test is to find out a student's understanding and proficiency in the fundamental subjects in relation to their grade level. So let's see how this might affect Jacob. Jacob is an 8th grade student. He's getting ready to take the Iowa assessment, and it is going to be administered by his school, and it's going to assess the academic proficiency that he has in those subjects. So he takes it and he answers the questions in each subject to the best of his ability because he's a great student. And this test is designed to align with the 8th grade curriculum. So it's going to show a fair evaluation of his knowledge and skills. So after he does the test, his results are reviewed, and it's shown that he's doing great in science and social studies. He's doing all right in math, but he is struggling in language and reading arts. So his teacher checks it out, and she looks at the scores, and she's like, hey, Jacob needs improvement in these different areas. So she can kind of tailor her curriculum to make sure that he is getting some extra practice in reading and in language arts so that he can keep working on his skills and do better. And just like on the SAT-10, the school district is looking at the scores, seeing whether kids are low, and looking at their curriculum to see what do we need to change. Okay, the next of these is the Metropolitan Achievement Test, or the MAT, and it's another standardized assessment to look at students' academic abilities and their knowledge across different subject areas. This one is, again, we're looking at reading, language arts, math, spelling, and other subjects. Just like the two students that we looked at, we're doing the same thing. We're looking at how are they doing in these subjects, where are they low, what do we need to do to help them be more successful. Okay, next up is diagnostic testing. And this is crucial for us to look at problems in learning and to assess these problems in learning. So the law says that individuals, and these are students or people aged 3 to 21, that are suspected of having a disability that interferes with their learning, they have the right to be tested at the school system's expense. These diagnostic tests are used in the development of IEPs, and students with disabilities have the right to an education within the least restrictive environment. So Public Law 94-142, which is also known as the Education for All Handicapped Children Act, was a really landmark piece of legislation that came about in 1975 in the United States. And the law aimed to ensure that all children with disabilities have access to a free and appropriate public education. And this is also going to be tailored to their needs. So the key provisions of the law showed one, there's free and appropriate public education. So it's mandated that all kids with disabilities, regardless of the nature or severity of the disabilities, have the right to a free and appropriate public education that's designed to meet their needs. They also have a least restrictive environment, and the law stipulates that students with disabilities should be educated in the least restrictive environment possible. They should be included in general education classrooms and provided with necessary support services so that they can reach their full potential. So one thing that you probably have heard about are IEPs, or individual education programs. If you guys are working in schools, you'll probably be sitting in on these as school counselors. And the IEP is for every student that has a disability. It's a personalized plan that outlines a child's specific educational goals, services, accommodations, and modification. And in doing this, the school district helps these students be able to thrive in the school environment. Sometimes, though, for us school counselors especially, and also for teachers, a lot of times there are a ton of IEPs. So for a class of maybe 30 students, you may have 10 or 12 students that have an IEP. So sometimes it's hard for teachers to be able to meet all of these needs, even when they're working really, really hard to do it. So the law also emphasized the involvement of parents or guardians in developing and reviewing the IEPs. And this ensures that they are active participants in the decision-making process. So the law also has some procedural safeguards that protect the rights of children with disabilities and their parents. So this includes due process procedures and mechanisms for resolving disputes that are between the parents and the schools. Also, the IEPs have evaluation and assessment, and it's required for schools to conduct appropriate evaluations and assessments to make sure that the child is eligible for special education services and to identify their needs. So the funding for this law is outlined, the rights and provisions for special ed. It did not initially have significant funding, but they have made some amendments to the IDEA Act and have federal funds that are helping with these different things. So in 1990, it was called the PL 94-142, and they have renamed that to be the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, known as IDEA. So let's take a look at some diagnostic tests. The first of those, excuse me, is the Wide Range Achievement Test, or RAT-4. And it's a standardized assessment, and it's measuring an individual's basic academic skills across a variety of subjects. So reading, spelling, math, and comprehension. And it is evaluating a student's ability to understand, recognize, and apply fundamental skills, showing insights into their academic strengths and weaknesses. The test is great because it helps educators and clinicians identify their learning disabilities and tailor instructional strategies to assess them in their progress. So let's say that we have Sarah, and she's 10 years old, and she is really struggling with her schoolwork, particularly in reading and math. So to understand her abilities, the teachers or the diagnostician for the district gives them a RAT-4 test. Sarah is asked during the test to read various words aloud, spell sentences, solve some math problems, and do some comprehension on reading passages. So the test shows that Sarah is doing great in spelling and comprehension, but she is struggling with different types of concept in math and in reading fluency. So because they know this, they can work on creating an IEP plan where she is going to get some targeted support to improve her math and her reading. The next one is the Wechsler Individual Achievement Test, or the WIAT-3. Again, it is a standardized achievement test that's looking for their how they're doing over a wide range of subjects. So let's take the case of Alex. He is a 10-year-old, and he's really struggling in reading and writing. So the test can be used to help him out. The first thing it can do is the initial assessment, and he's going to undergo the assessment to measure his academic skills in subjects like reading, writing, and any other subject that they want to look at. And the test is specifically tailored to his grade level. So it's going to show some interesting things. We see that Alex is doing great in math, but he's not doing so well in reading and written expression. And so this is great because teachers can make some targeted interventions that is going to help him be more successful in class. Another one of these tests is the Peabody Individual Achievement Test, or the PIAT. Once again, just like the other ones, it shows their achievement in different subjects and can also be used for the IEP. Another one that's popular is the Woodcock-Johnson test of cognitive abilities, and it helps to evaluate someone's individual cognitive abilities and their academic achievement. So it's going to show a kid's strengths and their weaknesses, which again helps the school people, psychologists, to be able to tailor their learning plan for their environment. So just real quick, these are also ones that are popular: the Wide Range Achievement Test, RAT-4, the Key Math Diagnostics Test, Key Math 3. And again, those two are very, very similar. They will show if there is a discrepancy in the learning and let us know where we need to be working on that. Okay, so these are readiness tests. These are really important because they show us when a child is ready to move on to the next grade level. And usually we use these when they are going into kindergarten or when they're going into first grade. So some problems are children's cognitive functioning when they're young changes really, really rapidly. And there are also in these readiness tests some cross-cultural biases. So we may see that it is not as suited for one group of students from one type of socioeconomic class in another one. And also readiness testing are not so helpful when you have a kid who doesn't have their first language as English. They are not going to do as well, obviously, on a test than a child whose first name is English. So let's take a look at a kindergarten readiness test for Marcus. He is 5 years old and he is getting ready to go into kindergarten. When he first comes to the school, he's going to be assessed on a whole bunch of different skills. And these are language, math, motor skills, social interaction, and cognitive development that's appropriate for his age. The test is going to show a lot of things. This one shows that Marcus has really strong language skills, but he's having a little bit of trouble with fine motor coordination and basic math concepts like numbers and shapes. So when he comes into the class, his teacher's going to know his weaknesses, and she's going to put some different activities together that are going to work on his fine motor skills, also some fun games and things on the computer that help him with his math. So this is great for him because he's going into kindergarten. He's already going to be successful because the teacher knows what he needs. Another one that is used is the Gesell Developmental Observation Revised, and it is another tool that helps to determine if a child is showing developmental progress and showing progress over a period of time. And the method is when the diagnostician will carefully watch and record the child's interactions in a regular environment. And going through this helps everyone, all the stakeholders, say, hey, this kid is doing great in social and emotional development. Cognitively, he's not doing so well, but he's doing great with physical development. All these things put together help us know that we need to meet different needs of the students. Okay, so next up are cognitive ability tests. And these are used to assess what an individual is capable of doing. And these are not to be confused with IQ tests. These tests look a little bit more like achievement tests, but they measure broad content areas. So they're great for identifying students who are not succeeding in school because they have a learning disability, motivation, problems at home, or issues with self-esteem. This is one, the Otis Lennon School Ability Test, or OLSAT. It is widely used, and it is an assessment that is measuring a student's cognitive abilities or their reasoning skills. So the test really aims to see, can a student think logically? Can they solve problems? And it also gives some general insight into their cognitive aptitude rather than specific academic knowledge. And this test is looking at a whole bunch of different things. So let's see if we can, okay, here we go. Our student for this one is Takesha, and she is super bright and enthusiastic, and she's 10. And she's taken the OLSAT to assess different cognitive abilities. And the test shows us that she excels in verbal and nonverbal reasoning. It shows she's got really strong analytical and problem-solving skills. And her OLSAT results are helpful to tailor her academic experience. So the teachers are like, hey, she is doing really, really good. Let's put her in an environment that's a little bit more challenging for her so she can reach her full potential. Another test that you're going to hear a lot about if you work in high school is the ACT, the College and Graduate School Admission, American College Testing. And this shows her potential to succeed in in college. So colleges look at that. They also look at the SAT, the Scholastic Assessment Test. And say that we have a kid, Sean, he's super motivated. He takes the SAT. The school looks at his skills and they're like, hey, he's really great in math, critical reading. He's showing a lot of proficiency in these fundamental areas. They're like, hey, we're looking at his application. We're looking at his test scores. They all look good. So they will most likely encourage him to come and join them. All right, we're wrapping up. I know this is really long. One that you are probably familiar with is the GRE, and this is a standardized test that is used mostly for admission into graduate schools and in business schools. Another one that you may hear about is the Miller's Analogy Test. Again, this is commonly used for graduate school admissions, particularly programs that require critical thinking and analytical skills. And the test basically evaluates someone's ability to recognize relationships between ideas, and it makes it a measure of higher level reasoning. So if you would like to go to law school, or if you want to go to medical school, the tests that are used for that are the LSAT and also the MCAT. And these here show if someone has a lot of potential in those different areas. All right, so the role of helpers. We have a lot of people that I pointed out that use this testing as a way to help students. So we've got school counselors, which is going to be you. We've got psychologists, we've got learning disability specialists, the school social workers. These are all part of the school special education team. These are the people that come together, the school psychologists, the school psychometrists. They are the ones who are going to come and test these children for you. And then you will probably be on an IEP team. The diagnostician will come and share their results. And then you, working with teachers and admin, will come to the conclusion of what type of modifications they will need for schools. School counselors sometimes are the only testing expert in the entire school. They know about the different data. They can look at that and help teachers figure out what is needed for their students to be successful. Okay, so final thoughts about testing. Teachers are often forced to teach to the test, and this is very frustrating because they are not allowed to do creative things that they would like them to be able to do. Sometimes testing will lead to labeling, and this is sometimes a mechanism for majority children to move ahead, and it keeps the minority children down. Testing also causes a lot of competition and peer pressure. But there are some upsides to testing because it lets us identify children, schools, and school systems that are performing poorly and make sure that they are on target to start changing things. Testing helps us to identify children that have learning problems. It makes sure that our students are accurately placed in grade level, and it's helping us identify what our students are good at, and it helps them to identify weak areas and things that they need to focus on. So this was the exciting world of testing. I hope that you enjoyed this slightly dry presentation. And if you have any questions, you can always let me know, and I'm happy to help you out.